Okay, welcome. I'm Jean Bourne. I am the program manager at ng-conf, and we are super excited to have Infragistics with us today. They do a really awesome webinar. I've done two or three with them, I think, three or four, and they're very good at it. And also the app builder is so cool. So you guys are in for a treat. I'm very excited about it. Um, just a little reminder that um, this is part of ng-conf, and we have a code of conduct, which I will post in the chat, link to in the chat if you care to look at it. Just basically be nice to each other. That's all we ask. So I will presenting today are Constantine and George, and I'll just turn the time over to them, and they'll introduce the rest of the team who's going to field some questions.
Excellent. Hi, everyone. My name is George Abraham. I am a product manager on the App Builder product, which we're going to show it to you today. And I'm joined by Constantine. Constantine, care to introduce?
Hello, everyone. My name is Konstantin Dinev, and I'm Director of Product Development at Infragistics, and I take care of everything Ignite UI and App Builder related. So very contextual.
And my name is Jason Barris. I manage product teams here at Infragistics, amongst other things, and very excited that you all took the time to join us today. I will be manning the questions in the chat. So if you have any questions, please jump over to the chat. It's easier because everyone sees it, and then say to everyone, and then everyone will get the answer. If you have something like really private or whatever, definitely use a Q&A or a private chat, but share. And with that, George, we'll let you take it away.
Excellent. So in today's presentation, what we want to cover are two products, but they are pretty much one and the same, right? So the first product we're going to talk about is Ignite UI, which is our foundational product. And without much of a preamble, I prepared 3 quick slides just to set the tone of our presentation and what we'll cover today. So with that in mind, let's just share my screen here. Share. And now you should all be seeing my screen. So when you think about, component libraries and app builders, there are many you can choose from in the marketplace. But what sets us really apart is this nice, tight integration between a component library like Ignite UI and App Builder, which is what we're going to show also today, is a single page app builder, which allows you to use components and make out real apps and then generate code out of it. If you talk briefly about Ignite UI, what you should remember about Ignite UI is that they are native Angular components, and they've really been battle tested in the field, in production environments, and it's really geared towards modern data-rich web apps. And what that means is you're seeing an example of one such component in this image here, which is our grid kind of a component. As you can see, it's a very dynamic grid with lots of data being pumped into it. And we are able to handle this data and at the same time give you a lot of advanced functionality in a component like grid. But naturally, grid is just one of the components, because as a line of business application builder, you need other components, and which is why the Ignite UI component library has 60 plus components built into it, and grid being one of them. Then we have charting and all the other building blocks you would need for creating your application. As I said before, everything is optimized for speed and performance because we are trying to do a very minimal file size for all our components, so it loads and renders really quickly. As I can show you here, there are no dependencies. They're native Angular components, so no extra libraries are required. Theming is baked into this product, and without theming, no brand is going to like any component library out there. And more importantly, they're all localizable. So localization is built right into it. So you do not have to worry extra hard to deal with these things. And the other part is also accessibility. All the common things you expect from a component library, a rich API, the ability to have keyboard navigations, all of these things which are really time-consuming activities you have to do on a component, it's actually available to you out of the box. And then very cool aspect of it is we have 100% transparent on GitHub. So if you look at the Ignite UI library on GitHub, you will see that it has all its history, all the discussions we are having, how we are processing, issues which have been filed, how we are tackling it. So you are on top of how we are actually approaching and managing the product. And of course, most importantly, as a developer working in a large enterprise, we provide you that industry leading support, which gives you the ability to actually function on your business and take care of the component issues with us. Now here I talked entirely about the component library. So what is this interplay between component libraries and App Builder? And that should take us to our next slide here. And that's where App Builder and Ignite UI come together. Everything I talked about components in Ignite UI is exactly the same developer components we expose in App Builder, which is our single page App Builder. And the toolbox has component parity with everything we have in Ignite UI. So what you are designing with on a design surface, which is what it is, it's a visual builder, you are using real components as opposed to just shells of components or things which look like components, because it has a very important role to play as we move forward. But on this slide, the only thing I want you to remember is every component which we say is part of Ignite UI is the same professional component we provide you inside the toolbox. And then finally, what does App Builder add to the mix is basically everything you need to build out applications, right? Which would mean that you would like to create your views or view components. I already talked about components, which is in the toolbox, but then data, which is the lifeblood of every business application out there. And we have this built-in support for REST API. And then, of course, there are technical things like variables, which allow you to pass data, store data, use it in the context of the lifecycle of your application, app themes, and of course, the final solution everybody might be curious about, AI, which is why Konstantin will actually take care of that part as I get to the end of my presentation. But the real secrets of our App Builder is that while we took real components, we gave you a visual design time experience, which allows you to build these applications. But what happens is that you're not held hostage to the application you created inside of App Builder. What you're seeing is a real-time preview of the application you're building, which means that you don't actually have to compile to see how this application is going to look. But we also generate code out of this application, which means that once you're done with App Builder, you get every single line of code which is required for you to run this application. And what you can do, you can see a code preview inside of App Builder itself while you're previewing the application. So you can do a quick check of how the code is being generated. But what we allow you to do is push this code into GitHub or Azure DevOps, allowing you the same experience every developer would expect to work in their preferred solution, which might be in IDE. So which is why you can see once it goes into GitHub, what you get out of it is also Ignite UI, which means that you get the same extensibility, same benefits, which you would get as if you had written this application by hand, right? So once you have it into GitHub, you can just download it or clone it into your IDE. And from that point onwards, you can move forward. And any future change you make inside of App Builder can be pulled, it's a pull request into that repo. So you have full transparency and control over what code kind of gets into App Builder. So now that I've talked about, all these things, let me show you how it really works together, right? So I'm going to switch to my App Builder product here. And what you're seeing is the design time experience of App Builder, which pretty much gives you a design surface. And everything I just talked about right now is available in my toolbox here. So here I have a list of views, and here I'm showing you the master or the main view and the child views, which are hosted inside of this App Builder. Then I talked about the toolbox, and as you can see, it's a very extensive toolbox, which contains both very simple components like buttons, checkbox, switches, but also extensive components like grids and charts, which is what you're seeing on the design surface. And everything you see here is all web friendly, which means that you can be building modern web apps without thinking about, hey, how does this layout work on the web? Because whatever layout we expose here is exactly the same layout you would be using if you were coding this by hand. Then comes our whole concept of data sources. And in this case, I'm showing off an OpenAPI spec, which I kind of imported into my application, which gives me access to all the endpoints available to me. And I can use these endpoints to create more dynamic scenarios in my application. And as I said, data binding is like what gives line of business applications life. And that's why we made it front and center as the critical building block for building real apps. Then we have, concept of variables. I'll touch upon it as I go forward in this demo. Theming is very simple. All you need to do is, if you look at our theming concept, it basically has the notion of a base theme. We have material as one of the base themes, but we also have 3 additional themes which are inspired by different design systems like Fluent, Bootstrap, and Indigo. And the whole purpose of offering this as part of the design system is that everything would look coherent, right? So if you're actually skinning something, we don't actually want you to waste time styling individual elements of your application. Instead, you just click on a different theme style. So I say, I want Fluent, I want a dark style, I want to change my typography, I want to change how the buttons are small or large, I can change my typography, and if I hit update, in one click, it kind of skins my entire application. And now I have an application which runs on dark theme, and I didn't have to work at all in order to maintain what these things would look across, the different styles of the application. And then finally, this is like the quality of life things, is the ability to actually hold on to assets so that you can drag and drop onto the design surface. And I'm just going to switch it back to light because I prefer light. Going back to the normal. And now let's talk about the fact that we talked about the single page app scenarios. I want to also show you what it looks like in terms of the components. Every single item in this toolbox, as I said, just to prove the point, is if I click on the grid component, if I look at the information tooltip here, it says that it's an Angular grid. Of course, we support other platforms, web stacks other than Angular, for example, Blazor, Web Components, and React. But as a developer, you can have the confidence in using these real components is if I click on View Docs, it takes us to your extensive API documentation, which we have really written for the developer audience, which gives you access to the API, code samples, and snippets. And this might actually be useful to you after you generate the application when you're trying to extend it and you're trying to figure out, okay, is there an event which allows me to do something? Well, yes, there is an event, and the grid is one of our most extensive components. And just scanning the help topics, you can see that the grid has a ton of features actually built into it. But the way we expose it inside of App Builder was another one of our goals is to make these kind of complex components easy to use. So in this case, I have actually created a customers table. It naturally makes use of a data binding. So you can see that the data is available as the front and center here. And if I switch my data sources, you can see that I can bind to a different data source in a snap. I don't actually have to work at all. And when I'm adding data, it's just as easy. So if I go into my API here, if I say configure endpoint, you can see that these are all the endpoints it pulled in. You can actually see what the API provides. You can see whether it has parameters or not, whether it's authenticated or not. All of these things can be handled right from the toolbox itself. So you are ready to go forward with whatever design or application you need to do. So even though you see the grid, which everybody thinks about it as a data table, pretty plain and simple, but you can see that in this grid, even though it looks simple, we have added a ton of features just by going into the features section and adding those features. So it's not evident to you, but this particular grid has filtering, sorting, editing, row selection, paging, remote paging, all of these features turned on just by going into the features dropdown. And I just went ahead and clicked on these things, which gives me a very feature-rich grid. So when I run the preview for this particular grid, you can see that I can do column moving, I can do column grouping, and it's all done for you without ever having to worry about it. And the same thing for exporting. So if you want to export to Excel or CSV, it's available there. If you want to hide columns, pin columns, or even if you want to do advanced filtering. None of these features you would have to build from scratch because it's part of this particular component library. Now with the component mix, as I showed you, it's a very straightforward way without ever you needing to look up the documentation as how do I set up this particular grid. But in this grid, I have also enabled things like display templates. And what that allows me to do is, instead of putting a flat piece of text in here, I've actually added a button in here. And the purpose of that button, it actually talks about this next phase of our concept, which is the state and context. Because when you're talking about data, all the views which come inside the app are actually powered by data. So in our scenario, I was able to set up an interaction which allows me to navigate for one of these customers. It goes to a details view, and in this details view, it's able to pull up data for orders for that particular customer. And I can go even drill down further by clicking on one of those options here. And this particular customer has been mucked around with too many times, so it has things deleted out of it. But as you can see, now I selected one of the orders, and I can see the order details available dynamically. And if no orders are available, I can set it up in App Builder in order to say no order details. And of course, from a design perspective, you can create very rich looking, beautiful looking UIs without ever having to worry about how the CSS is going to look like, what the code is going to look like, because we take care of making sure that the code stays on point and as robust as ever. And talking about coming back to the state and context scenario I was talking about, in the customers table, what I have basically done is I have a customer details view. I have created a routing parameter, all Angular things, which if you're Angular developers, you know what's going on here. I set up this route parameter. So if I look at variables for this particular page, I can see that I have this route parameter set up. And if I go back to my previous view for customers, what I've basically done is, of course, the app builder allows you to specify interactions. So in this interactions tab, I can see that I've set a navigate to action for me. And it's pointing to this customer details view in my particular application. And I'm basically passing a binding, a parameter, to say that every time that is clicked, take the customer ID and pass it as route ID. And once that happens, when I come onto the customer details page, every single element here is now bound to that particular selected customer, which is what another variable I created for this particular view for selected customer. And you can see the selected customer is being initialized by the same route ID, right? Every time the route ID comes in, it makes a fresh request. So everything stays really dynamic in this kind of an example. Now you must be wondering, what other things can I achieve inside of App Builder? Well, if you talked about data, we talked about complex components displaying a lot of rich data very quickly, then naturally you can think about, okay, what about a simple scenario like a form, right? And the way we allow you to create forms is that you just drag and drop a dialog component, which is what I'm going to do here. I'm going to say dialog. I create a dialog. It gives me some styles of dialog, but in this case, I'm going to create a custom content dialog. And in this content layout, I'm going to add a layout. And what I'm doing is I'm just using Command E. This is the same thing as going and dragging and dropping from the toolbox. But I like this approach because it helps me stay in the context of what I'm doing. So in this case, I can grab a layout and I can size the layout. It will size the dialog for me, and I don't need this body text. And inside this dialog, I can either drop a form, a component, or you can make use of another accelerator we have built into the product. Is if I go into my data sources, and if I select one of these endpoints saying post customer, I drag and drop it in here, we dynamically generate this form for you, right? So what you get out of this is that we look at the schema, we figure out what was required, whether it has some validation rules. And as you can see in the property panel here, it's a very simplified view of what an input group component does. It has a type, which is of type text. It has label, placeholders, but then all the validation rules are actually pulled in from the schema. So you actually are ensured that the forms you're going to create, they are going to work. The server is not going to reject your request. And you can see that there are these new rules which have also been pulled in because it's part of the schema, saying that it has a min length rule, it has a max length rule, and it's actually being pulling in directly from here. So when I look at this form in practice, I'm just going to delete this particular dialog because I already have this dialog. And everything in App Builder where things appear on top of your application, we're calling it an overlay. And in this overlay, you can see that there's this new customer dialog, which is the same dialog I was actually designing. So if I'm running this application, I click on new customer, and all the validations would actually fire automatically. So you don't have to worry about creating these forms and making sure that everything is aligned correctly just by dragging and dropping an endpoint, and we create the form for you. In terms of the properties for the form, they're also pretty straightforward. So if I go and look at my outline, I have this new customer form, and you can say that the form has a name, it has a submit endpoint, and based on that submit endpoint, everything is bound to that particular variable. So if I click on this contact name, you can see that this is bound to this customer's contact name, and all the bindings are actually taken care of for you directly. And same thing for the other form elements is that we can also have additional interactions on the form, which also lets you do conditional interactions and conditional actions on top of the form you're building. So in this case, it's saying on submit, make a post request. And if the API success is true, of course, you can add more conditions in this mix. I can go ahead and do a bunch of things inside of App Builder. So in this case, I'm actually setting the page index for my remote paging. I'm actually running this form reset, which is like clearing the form before it closes, and all the other essential things, which is the cleanup activities. I have full control and visibility over how it's actually working inside of App Builder. Now, I talked about how you can create complex components, how I can create functional components like the form, but we didn't spend much time on the preview. So let me talk about this preview experience. And this preview experience is special because yes, as developers, you're always known to compile and see if it really works or not. What we have tried to do is made this preview experience really quick, right? So that means there's no compilation required, but we can guarantee that what you're seeing inside this preview window, all the styles and all the interactions, they're exactly the same thing you would get when you generate the application. But do you need to generate the application to see what kind of code it generates? Well, for the basic building blocks, no. We are actually dynamically creating the code for you, so you can see how clean we are trying to keep the code inside this preview window. So when you navigate to a different view, say I go to my master view, you can see the code is refreshed dynamically. If I go to another view here, you can see that it's using real components. Everything is readable and semantic. And we have also split out, what are the other SCSS or the TypeScript, which is running on that particular page. So this page has more TypeScript stuff in here. So I'm just going to switch to here. So you can see exactly all the code which is being written for you, but at the same time, it's written in a fashion which allows you to build on top of without having to rip out things or have low confidence in terms of what it would actually do for you, right? Like we don't want to make sure that it has crappy stuff in there, which you have to this is why people have a stigma for code generation, but we have tried to make sure that this doesn't happen in our solution. And we want to make sure that it's still top notch when you're actually getting it outside of App Builder. Now, finally, even though this is not specifically relevant to our Angular peers here, but as I said, it's a platform agnostic experience. So say that your CTO changes and they decide one fine day that they're going to switch to React. Well, guess what? You don't actually ever have to worry about App Builder, because just like we created Angular code, I can just switch to React and it generates the code. And now I can generate this application in React. But let's go back to Angular. So now I'm back on my edit time experience. And when you're seeing this little notification here, this is another quality of life improvement we made, is that when your API changes, you do not have to worry about updating your application. We notice that change, we inform you of that change, you can view those changes, and you can update it. And then we will look for every aspect of your app which references the same endpoint or API or schema, and we fix it for you on the fly. So you are always ensured that your latest API is reflected in your current state of your application. So you can think about this as huge time savers, both in terms of creation of your applications, ensuring that it looks pretty, have an ability to create an application which is shareable with your team members or your stakeholders as quickly as possible, and ensure that when we get code out of it, it's top-notch code, top-notch component library, and you have support throughout this whole life cycle, right? And that brings us to this other part about what do you do with this application that you just created. It's not going to live in the preview. We would like for you to do more things with this application when you generate, which is why we have this publish workflow. So we allow you to publish this application either to GitHub or to Azure DevOps. And of course, you can also download a zip of this application. But I would really recommend continuing to use the GitHub or this other approach, because it allows us to continue work on this application without overwriting anything. So if I hit publish at this point, I already did this one just in the interest of speed, because of which it'll say that it's already linked to a particular repository. So in this case, it's connected to the CRM Angular new repo, and it's making a pull request. And previously, when I published it, I also checked this deploy to GitHub pages, which allows me to have a running application running right off GitHub, allowing me to see what it would look like after it was compiled. And with our GitHub, when I do this publish, let's just try creating a branch. It publishes, it pulls up every piece of change I made. It creates the pull request in that particular repo. And you'll see that we also have GitHub Actions firing, which would make sure that everything looks good and clean. And if there is an issue, it will notify me. So if I click on this pull request, you can say, hey, here's the pull request made. It tells you exactly what files are being changed in your application. So you have full visibility into how this is going. And if I come back to my app builder, imagine that I already did this once before, right? That's what I said I did. If I come and look inside my dropdown, you see there's an option for view live app. Because I already had published in the past into the repo, this is actually, and I checked the view as GitHub pages. If I click view live app, now you can see a running application running on GitHub pages. And this is a great proof point to see that, okay, if I look at the preview here, and if I look at the app which is running, are they exactly the same or not? So you're seeing this trial badging because I just happen to publish it as unlicensed, but it's exactly the same functionality, right? So I'm able to do all of the same things which I was showing you earlier, but now it's available to you running pixel perfect, with what I actually designed inside of App Builder. So that pretty much gives a quick summary as to how we go from pure imagination with the real component library. And this is the journey I just walked you through. I showed off what the views and the master view and the child routing, how it works. I talked about the components. I gave you an example of grid, which is one of the most complex components. Data sources, I talked about how data binding works, how refreshing the data sources work, and also binding for page level items. And then I would talk briefly about variables, showing you how I'm using variables to pass data between components and across different views. And app themes, I showed you briefly that. And then that pretty much took us to this pull request workflow, which takes you to this GitHub repo, allowing you to publish your application. And then once you have published your application, what you're seeing in your IDE is the one part I missed out on. I showed you the code preview, right? We call it code preview for a reason, because the code which is actually generated, I have actually pulled it up here inside of Visual Studio Code because I cloned this repo. And you can see the benefits of using a solution like ours is this is the Angular version we are publishing on, right? So this is Angular 20.3. and which makes sure that every time you publish from App Builder, you'll always get the latest and greatest of what Angular has to offer. And in addition to that, you'll see that all the code which is available here. I showed you an example of running it on GitHub Pages, but you can just as easily come in here. Well, let's just do it live. I said npm install. I already did this once, so it should be fast. And I say npm start. And now I'm running it locally instead of on GitHub Pages, but the experience and the fidelity of the final solution is going to look exactly the same. So that gives us a lot more confidence in terms of ensuring that the design you actually came up with, well, it's going to fire it up, it's going to run this, and it's going to, I know it's going to look exactly the same because that's our promise, and that's what we would like to deliver on. Come on, my computer is finally chugging. All right, so now I have a running local version, so there are no smoke and mirrors. I showed you a version which is running on GitHub Pages. I showed you a version which I cloned and ran locally from my application. And of course, it's flexible. So, as you resize and things, it's just normal flex. There is no mystery or clever tricks we have played. We want to make sure that whatever the web is built on is exactly what we are actually offering inside of App Builder. And all the functionality of the components, like having this collapsible drawer, a navigation rail, these are all components which are available to you inside of App Builder. So with that, what I want to do is talk about this final mystery piece of the puzzle. It's like how Apple finishes presentations and one more thing. And this is going to be that one more thing. And I'm going to pass it on to Konstantin to take us on that part of the journey.
Thank you very much, George. Shouldn't forget to unmute myself. So hello from me. George was able to go through all of the general pieces of App Builder. And now what's left is for me to talk about probably the most covered topic at the moment, which is AI, right? And since everyone is talking about AI, and since pretty much any product that you can think of actually incorporates AI in terms of features that it offers, let's see what I'm going to show you now with App Builder. So you will notice that unlike George, I'm actually going to this preview.appbuilder.dev, which is a preview environment with VNext features that we're developing. So this preview environment is public. It's like a public test realm for us. And any new feature that we have a stable version of, but still not a release version, goes on our preview environment, and users can actually experience it and give us feedback about how things are looking. And so how is preview at the moment different from what George was showing you in our production environment with App Builder? Well, I'm going to go and create a new application in the preview environment. And you will notice that the dialog that is popping up is actually already different from what George was showing you. So in the original dialog that we have on production, you start with either one of those beautiful sample applications that we've built as templates and that you can modify and start from. You can start from the templates that are general layouts, of applications that you can start from, and they're empty, or from Figma. But this tab, which is actually focused by default now on preview, generate with AI, was missing there. All right, and so I want to display as much as possible. But let's start from here. So what I want to do is build an application that manages my pirate ship, because outside of doing webinars and outside of running products, I'm also running a pirate ship. And coincidentally, pirates are the theme of ng-conf. So how come? I mean, what a coincidence. So I have this prompt right here that I have prepared, which says create a new application for managing my pirate ship. I need to track crew members' responsibilities and manage their time. my ship supplies, and my cargo, my ship's maintenance status, as well as my ship's ammunition. I need to also manage my pirating plans, like ports available for raid and what bullion we can plunder from them. Right. So it's somewhat of a concrete prompt. I want something specific, but it's also very vague, right? Because I'm saying I want to build an application, but I'm actually not telling App Builder anything about structure, right? What I'm saying is what I want to accomplish. And since I'm running a pirate ship, I don't have time to build applications, right? I need to actually run the ship, manage the crew, divide all the bullion and all of that. And so this is what I'm giving App Builder, because I expect App Builder to actually build applications for me while I'm at the same time I'm running my pirate ship. So I'm going to hit generate, and while it's working, I'm going to take a disclaimer. This is an AI demo. So, even though I've tested like 20 times, it can always flop. So far, I've gotten really good results. So, I have something to fall back to, or I can reprompt. Anyways, while this is doing work, so I'm pretty much handing off, as I said, the task of building an application to App Builder, giving it an entirely conversational prompt, right? And George was talking about imagination. So I'm letting App Builder imagine my application for me. As I said, I'm not giving any concrete instructions to App Builder about the structure of the application I want. I'm just telling it, okay, this is what I want this application to do. This is the purpose that I have for it. And this should be almost done. So yeah, okay, I have a result. All right, let's see what it did. So it gave me an application which has an application shell with navbar and nav drawer. It's called Pirate Ship Management, and it has more views, right? So I have crew members, ship supplies, ship cargo, ship maintenance, ship ammunition, raids, and bullion. Okay, it did cover pretty much everything that I gave it in prompt. And as I said, I haven't built anything myself so far. I just requested everything through a prompt. All right, so let's quickly look at those views that it created. So it has only 3 crew members. Captain Blackbeard, I guess, is me. Then I have my first mate Sparrow and Cook Patch. So the ship supplies have hardtack and fresh water. Okay, 200 gallons of fresh water. I don't know how long that is going to last us, but for only 3 people, it should be quite a while. All right, so then I have in the ship cargo, I have gold doubloons, whatever that is. I have no idea. And silk fabric. All right, I guess we took the silk fabric somewhere from India, maybe, or, Southern Asia. All right, then in the ship maintenance items, I have hull patching and sail repair. All right. Ammunition, I have cannonballs and grape shot. All right. And in the raids, I have Port Royal and Tortuga that are lined up for those raids. And then for bullion, I have Spanish gold coins and jewel crowns. All right. Well, it did pretty good. It created all of those views. It created that navigation for me. Let's quickly look at this in preview. All right, it navigates through the different items, and it shows me all of the different views. Let's get back into edit mode. Okay, so what I really don't like about this application at the moment is, first of all, it didn't add the icon to open and close my navigation drawer. But second, the look and feel is really not something suitable to a pirate. Captain Blackbeard doesn't like that. So let's go back into our conversational experience, all right? And right here, I can start asking for follow-ups, right? I can tell AI to actually do more work. All right, and so in this case, I wanted to generate a new theme, which is more suitable and acceptable to pirates. And let's see what that does. Okay, again, so far, actually, if I've never used App Builder, I never had to do anything where, I am using any of the features directly. I'm asking AI to use the features for me. All right, let's see now what it did with this theme. Man, that looks a lot better. Like the font is better, okay, and it's darker. It looks a lot more suitable for a pirate ship, okay, for pirate ship management application. Great. Well, there is another aspect of this application that I still don't like, and there is no usage of YAR. So let's ask AI to actually increase drastically the usage of YAR in content. Let's see whether this will do anything for me. Okay, it's doing work. It picked up YAR or other pirate phrases. I wonder what the other pirate phrases are. This is AI. Let's see. Did it do a whole lot? Okay. Actually, I don't think it succeeded this time. Maybe I overloaded it with YAR. So yeah, I didn't see a whole lot of updates. I took the disclaimer that this is an AI demo, so some of the things don't run so well. And sometimes they succeed and sometimes not. I still don't see YAR being used in the applications content. Please use more YAR. And by the way, here I'll be scolded for using please, so use more YAR. We don't want to waste electricity on saying please and thank you when interacting with AI. Maybe that will do a better job. There we go. YAR, pirate ship management. Okay, it added 1 YAR. Or maybe more. I don't know. Let's see. Anyways, so now I have this pirate ship management application already set up, and I still actually have not used anything within App Builder. I have not touched any feature. I've only gone to chat and I've asked AI to do stuff for me. And I can still continue with the same workflow that George was already showing. And this is, I can, publish code now to GitHub or to Azure DevOps. And in the interest of time, by the way, let me just show you that this is not smoke and mirrors, and there is actually code behind this application. So in the interest of time, this webinar, I will show you one of the apps that I already exported to GitHub, because that will be faster. Because I want to touch on yet another feature of AI that App Builder delivers. So this one, the conversational experience that we have in chat with App Builder, is on preview.appbuilder.dev. But the next one that I'm going to show you is actually only an internal preview still. We expect it to get into a public preview very soon, but it's not yet time. Still, I'm going to show you what it does. So let me just open this other application that I generated earlier. So this is my other pirate management application. And by the way, see that it's AI. It's actually different, right? It has different look and feel. Structurally, it's almost the same because it's exactly the same prompt, but it's actually a different application. And I have this one running right here in VS Code. And so here's the localhost application running. And by the way, when I published my repository to GitHub, I also requested it to initialize a GitHub Pages deployment from that repository, which is also accessible directly from App Builder, meaning when you click publish right here, when you select public repository, you can actually, why am I not seeing it? I wonder why I'm not seeing it here. Hold on. Oh, okay, it's on the next step. So I can actually request with a checkbox that the deployment generates a GitHub Pages deployment from the repository. So as I said, I have this one running right here locally, and it's also deployed on GitHub Pages. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get out of App Builder and still use App Builder. All right, so now I'm in VS Code, and right here in VS Code, I have all of the code that is generated, the entire repository running, data and everything else. And you will notice that I interacted with the agent in VS Code already, and I wanted to update my pirating plans to include distance for each of the ports that I want to raid. So let's look at the application here. So here are my pirating plans, and I generated some distance from our ship to the port that we want to raid. But now what I'm going to do is I want to add some functionality for my crew to actually be able to log in to this pirate ship management application. Okay. And what I'm going to say is generate, I don't want caps lock, generate a login view for my pirate crew and add it to the project. And I'm going to say using App Builder. So what does VS Code agent know about App Builder? Well, it knows enough. Why? Because we have an MCP server. As I said, this is an internal preview still, but I have this App Builder MCP server currently installed here in VS Code. And let's see what the agent trigger will do. So you will notice now, while it's working, you will notice that the VS Code agent will actually try to call an endpoint on the MCP server now. Okay. Agents are a little slow sometimes, so it needs to gather some context from the application that it's working with. But let's get to the logging component. And see now, the agent is asking me whether to allow it to run a generate AB view command on this App Builder MCP server. And it's giving me the prompt that it's going to send to the command. And I'm going to say, yeah, okay, let's allow it. Now App Builder is working, actually. So it should be faster than the agent working. Let's see. I'm joking, could be slower. By the way, I don't have this on hold music that I can turn on while everything is generating. If I did, I would have done so. And I cannot sing, otherwise I could have sang to you. By the way, this succeeded. Now it's constructing project components. Viewing the Angular template, implementing show hide password logic. Please hold on the line. Your call is very important to us. Still working.
Well, it's funny how we expect things so fast now. Right? And in the past, it would have taken us 4 hours to write this code. It's all
4 hours?
well,
Really? I don't think you could have done it in a day.
no, I mean just the login form.
Okay. Because I couldn't have done it in a day. I mean, the whole bootstrapping and everything, yeah, we have CLI and so on and so forth, but it takes a while to write all this.
It's very funny because with App Builder, without AI, yeah, 5 minutes, you WYSIWYG your way to a new login screen, and then, a couple minutes here and there. So the AI and App Builder actually does a lot to begin with, right? And then when you get into the tweaking is when you really see the value of having that WYSIWYG in App Builder, because I can go tweak things really pointed and not wait for a prompt to do something maybe I can do easier in App Builder, push that PR, merge it, boom, it's done. So I do that when I do the reveal demos because it's like adding a reveal to an app and App Builder is literally one drag and drop. It takes the AI a minute,
So Jason, I think we did this backwards in this webinar. We should have started with the AI generated app, and then George could have actually tweaked it with all of the beauty and features that App Builder has.
Yep.
Anyways, I'm taking a note for next one. Yeah. All right. As you can see, it's doing some work, right?
Doing a lot of work. It's doing routing, it looks like. It's adding the component. It created the screen. It ran the tests.
Yeah, it already updated the routes. It added a new route for the login. It updated the navigation drawer with a new item to navigate to login. By the way, I would have been happier if the agent actually thought about adding login in the nav bar, not the nav drawer. But it's AI, like it's not smarter than us. And IMO is never going to be smarter than us. And it's almost done. Okay, the test passed. Oh no, it asked me to actually run the UI tests also.
Wow.
Okay. And here is the summary. Wow. All that for a login view. It did a lot of work.
Black flag login icon.
Yeah, but let's hit the browser because that's what's important, right? Okay, let's refresh here. By the way, is this a correct application? Oh yeah, crew login yar. Oh, it actually it followed the yar, and it has black flag login, which the agent didn't figure out the colors for how it should contrast with the background, but we can change that in subsequent prompts. It would have been nice if it did. But here it is. It would have the username and password login and the remember me button, and then forgot your password, which doesn't lead us anywhere. And you don't have an account, and a registration link, which, if I ask it to now add a registration form, it will, and it will wire it up. So what I wanted to show is that App Builder is something that will also expose in agentic mode, right? And if you want to start from VS Code and use it with an application that you've already built, which has nothing to do with App Builder, and it's not produced by App Builder, you can. And it works perfectly with it, because here the MCP server didn't know anything about our app apart from the context that the agent sends to it in the prompt. And once again, I can open the prompt and show it to show to you exactly what it is, right? But App Builder was able to produce a view, and the agent was then able to integrate it in this project. This project just happens to be generated by App Builder, but it doesn't have to be generated by App Builder at all. And you can still use this. And so this enhances the development workflow for anyone. Like, if you don't like the drag and drop surface, or for some reason don't want to use it, you can still take advantage of all of the code generation aspects that App Builder offers and actually get really nice views produced from it. And with that, my demo concludes.
Yeah, I was going to add, Konstantin, what's really cool about this is that the flow, I'm in App Builder, it's created, let's say it creates 75% of what I want, or I'm WYSIWYGing, I'm AIing, whatever. But App Builder gives me that certainty, right? I generate the code. Now I'm working in VS Code. There's no better coding companion than that right-hand chat nowadays. And I want to take that login form and integrate it in with Entra ID or something, another auth provider that App Builder has no idea about, right? App Builder knows what it knows, and now you have your own infrastructure. And now I can not worry about the UI. I can just focus on other aspects of it. And then let's say George comes up with a new screen. He has App Builder open. He creates the screen. I merge that PR, boom. I have new screens. Maybe he used AI, maybe he didn't. But there is this nice developer workflow because we have App Builder, we have Visual Studio Code, we have GitHub as our connector, and then of course Copilot Chat is just become part of our lives now.
Absolutely. There's tremendous benefits of this. Like, any workflow as a developer that you would want to use is achievable now. And App Builder enhances it.
And anyone can go use this at our preview site. Go to appbuilder.dev, and I think there's a link there when you log in to look at the preview site. Or is it at the bottom, George, or at the top somewhere? There's
at the bottom.
A bottom banner. And when do you anticipate people can play around with that MCP server? Is that in Q1, end of year?
I really would hope that it's going to be before the end of the year.
Okay, because that's really powerful too. So anyway, very exciting. George, I'm going to pass it back to you to bring us home here. And if you have any final words, but I think we're wrapped up.
No, I think what Konstantin was showing was the experience with App Builder doesn't end in App Builder. It always can be extended outside of App Builder. And that is the biggest concern our developer community has, is that, hey, I'm working on this application, now it's stuck in this application, I'm held hostage to it. But that's not the case with Infragistics and App Builder. With Ignite UI, you're getting that rock solid foundation, which is very different from which is outside in other products where everything looks like a component, but everything is kind of hidden from view. So it looks like everything is working hunky-dory, but once you stop your subscription, that's it. Your application is stuck on their cloud. Here you're taking care of the deployment, and you sign up for Gemini or Cloud or your favorite flavor of AI, and you can continue to use that inside of the IDE, which gives you tons of flexibility and not being blocked into a corner in terms of what we can achieve together. So I hope this has given you a good sense of the workflow which we expect for our developer community, and it's really geared at the speed of feedback, how quickly you can come up with ideas and not have to worry about, I'm not a CSS person, I'm not a web layout person, I'm not a component, I don't have time to read the API. Here you have the confidence that just out of the box, everything is taken care of. You're able to do it quickly. And if you ever have any questions, if you ever want to extend the functionality of the component, hey, 100% transparency on GitHub. You put in a feature request, it shows up in the product, Guess what? That shows up inside of App Builder. Angular upgraded to Angular 25. No problem. We take care of that also. So with all of these capabilities built in, there are many, many, many efficiencies which are being layered on top of each other, which is what you're going to finally get in terms of savings and efficiencies within your workflow. That's about it.
Awesome. Thanks, George. Thanks, Constantine. Gene, do you have any final wrap-ups?
I was just gonna say thanks for coming. You guys are a dream to work with. So, and everyone go check out their product because it's a game changer. So thanks for spending our time with us today, and everyone have a great Tuesday. Wednesday. It's Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Dang.
Great Halloween if you are into it.
Oh yeah. Happy
Oh, yeah.
Halloween. All right. Thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.